Have you noticed that normal life has started to feel weirdly boring? Waiting for the kettle to boil, phone. Standing in a queue, phone. Eating lunch, phone. Sitting on the toilet, phone. Concerts, don't even get me started on concerts. And it has literally gotten to the point where I had to look within and just simply ask myself, is my life actually boring, or have I just trained my brain to constantly need entertainment? Because our phones are giving us something new every second. A new video, a new influencer, a new opinion, new drama. And then when we put the phone down, suddenly life feels like, well, here's a tree. It almost feels like we're simply missing out on living life because we're constantly being sidetracked by our phones and keeping up with social media, making sure everyone sees the nice restaurant we've been to today, watching everyone's highlights because you have a fear of missing out, FOMO. And don't worry, I am not coming for you. I am just as guilty. But once I started paying attention to my own habits, I noticed 3 things that my phone was doing that was making life feel way less interesting than it actually is. And the first one is very obvious, but it was realizing that my brain needs entertainment every second. I realized that I never let myself just wait anymore. If I have 30 seconds with literally nothing happening, apparently that is now an emergency. I'll pick up my phone while waiting for food, between tasks, before I get out of bed. Sometimes I'll literally open Instagram, close it, and then reopen it 8 seconds later. Hand up if you're guilty. It made me realize that at some point, it just became muscle memory. I was doing it without consciously deciding to. And I think that's the problem. When your brain gets used to something new and interesting happening every few seconds, normal activities start feeling painfully slow. Reading a book takes effort. Going for a walk without earphones feels weird. Literally, even watching a full-length movie starts feeling like a long-term commitment. Like 2 hours with the same plot, same storyline? Absolutely not. So what I did instead was I deactivated Instagram. Going on October will be one full year. Let me tell you, that was one of the hardest decisions of my life. I struggled. Those first few months was withdrawals. My finger was going to tap where Instagram normally is, and my emails would pop up, and it was rough. It was rough, and it's embarrassing to admit. First world problems, right? But I did it because I wanted to prove to myself that I could live without it. Because I noticed that checking people's stories had become sort of almost an addiction, and comparing myself to others became more and more noticeable and started weighing emotionally heavy on me. So I decided to start training myself to create these tiny pockets of boredom again. Not a dramatic 7-day phone detox, because we all know that's insane. But I started with a few things. I deactivated Instagram. I put a timer on social media apps. Now, you can snooze these, but I highly encourage you not to do it the first time because it starts becoming routine. Trust me, I would know. I started leaving my phone at home when going on walks, or just leaving my phone in my bag whenever I'm out, like shopping or doing any type of activity. But I would take it off silent just to make sure that I'm still contactable in case anyone needs me. And I stopped going to the toilet with my phone. Now, the men, I just know that one's just going straight over their heads because their 2-hour poo sesh, let me tell you, ain't no way. They can't self-entertain themselves for as long as their poo sessions are. Don't know why it's that long, but whatever. I digress. Now, to talk about the changes it made and how it affected my life. When I started walking without my phone or even just my headphones, I started realizing how much I had stopped noticing. All you can hear is nature breathing, the dogs barking, the kids laughing as they ride their bike, people conversing, the birds chirping. You notice more. Even noticing the flowers have bloomed a little bit more than they did yesterday. That old couple that sit on the balcony with the coffee and tea at 6:15 p.m. every Tuesday. Little things like that are the beauty in life. And those things are the things that we tend to miss out on when we're always looking down or always got something in our ear being entertained. I mean, there is a time and a place for that, don't get me wrong, but the whole point of this is to not miss living and enjoying life because you're so consumed by your device. Even going to the toilet without my phone literally gave my brain a few seconds or minutes just to wonder, just to think. I'll literally remember an old cringy conversation or a funny one. I'll plan something for the weekend. I'll come up with my next video idea. I'll literally think of a great business idea, or I even start imagining random scenarios that I wish would happen like I did as a kid. Basically, all the stuff that our brain used to do when we were growing up and didn't have a tiny device that we were always attached to. I used to be the type of person that would walk all over the house and hold my phone dearly wherever I go just to make sure it's always there, and like knowing it's there gave me comfort even if I wasn't on it. But now that I've trained myself to not need to have it all the time and be so emotionally connected to this device, It's so freeing. I'm literally always telling my husband, oh, can you call my phone? I really don't know where I left it. Like constantly don't know where my phone is. And I actually low-key love it. Like I love it here. Now, this is not pressure on you. You do not have to start the way I did. Completely optional. You can start very small. Try leaving your phone in the other room while you make breakfast. Try waiting in a queue without immediately taking it out to entertain yourself. Go for a 10-minute walk without listening to anything. Eat one full meal without touching your phone. And just trying to watch a full-length movie without going on your phone. Basically, just practice existing without needing your phone next to you at all times. Because there's nothing wrong with being bored. No one ever died from being bored. Boredom is where your brain gets enough time to process and enough quiet time to think, to remember, create. So I encourage you to try at least one of those things. Before I go into point 2, please just ignore this. The sun is setting. There's nothing I can do. There's nowhere I can run. And it seems to be the consistent theme through all my videos is just the shadow following me, but we digress. Let's move on. Point 2, my phone was making my life feel underwhelming. The second thing I noticed was how quickly my phone could change the way I felt about a life I was perfectly happy with 5 minutes earlier. You could wake up feeling good, the sun is shining, you've made yourself a nice breakfast, you're having yourself a cutesy little Tuesday morning, and then you open up your phone. Now, someone's in Italy, someone just bought a house, someone got engaged, someone has abs, someone apparently has already meditated, worked out, journaled, made sourdough bread, and earned 6 figures, and it's literally only 8:42 in the morning. Meanwhile, I'm standing there holding a piece of toast thinking, okay, well, my life's crap. And nothing about my life has actually changed. My breakfast is still there, my house is still the same, my plans are still the same, but suddenly they feel less impressive. Because in the space of 10 minutes, I've consumed the highlight reel of 30 different people. And I think sometimes we forget just how unnatural that is. Literally, before social media, you might have compared yourself to the people around you. But now, in this day and era, you can compare yourself to 150 people before you've even brushed your teeth. And this is another big reason why I deactivated Instagram, because I started noticing that certain content wasn't inspiring me anymore. It was making me feel behind. I think there's a big difference between the two. Like if you're watching someone amazing and thinking, oh, that's so cool, I'd love to try that. That's great. But if you constantly leave someone's page thinking, oh, why isn't my life like that? Why don't I look like that? Why have I not achieved that yet? Then maybe I don't think you need to be consuming that person's content every single day. And that doesn't mean they've done anything wrong, because they're definitely on their own journey and they've worked to get there. It's just not healthy for you to compare yourself to someone that is on a different journey and has a different timeline to yours. Now, you don't need to dramatically unfollow them and announce your departure. You can literally just mute them or unfollow them for now. And don't worry, that doesn't make you a hater. You're just more aware now and you're protecting your peace. Try to remove things from your feed that repeatedly make you feel bad about yourself. Your social media feed is literally something you can curate. So curate it. Because I realized that opening social media first thing in the morning almost forced me to start my day off on a bad note. Because now I feel down because Jenny's in Ibiza for the 3rd time this year. John quit his job and became a digital nomad because he felt like it. Meanwhile, I have 4 meetings before 10 a.m. Like, I don't need that pressure. Give me a break. At least let me brush my teeth first. Now, the change it made. I think the biggest thing I noticed is that I'm more appreciative of my own life when I'm not constantly measuring it against everybody else's. Normal things start to feel like they're enough. A quiet weekend doesn't feel like I'm wasting my 20s just because someone else is partying in Ibiza. A normal dinner doesn't need to look like it came off a Pinterest board. A productive day doesn't have to involve waking up at 5 a.m. and completing 47 tasks. I can just have a nice day and it can stay nice. If you do decide to stay on social media and just put a time limit on it or whatever works for you, I highly encourage you to just pay attention to how you're feeling after you've consumed a certain content. Do a check-in and ask yourself, do I feel inspired by this person or inadequate? Mute the accounts that make you feel inadequate. I also encourage you to try not to check social media for the first 30 minutes after you wake up. Maybe try not to even check it while you're getting ready. Just check it later in the day after your brain has had some time to just wake up and function. Just let yourself experience your mornings and enjoy your mornings. And just remember, your life hasn't suddenly become boring, unsuccessful, or behind just because somebody online is doing something exciting. Their highlight reel is not a review of your life, and it is a highlight reel. Most of the time, you don't see the behind the scenes of their life. You literally just see the highlights. So don't compare your everyday life to someone else's highlight. I mean, their whole life probably doesn't even look like their highlight. So what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Let's just relax. Take take it easy. And for the last point, start replacing scrolling with some hobbies. The third thing I realized is that just stop scrolling sounds great in theory, but in reality, it's not very helpful, because I'd literally just put my phone down and think, okay, now what? And suddenly I'm just sitting there looking at the walls like I've forgotten how to be a functioning human. But to be honest, I wasn't just scrolling out of habit. I was scrolling because I didn't really have anything else to put my attention to. Scrolling was easy, comfortable, fun. There's other ways you can get that dopamine hit. So once you remove your scrolling habits, there's just this awkward silence because your brain is just waiting for instructions. And I realized if I don't replace this habit, I'm gonna keep going back to it. Because realistically, if my only two options are scrolling on Instagram or staring at a wall, I'm gonna pick Instagram every single time. Obviously, I'm going to feed what mentally stimulates me. So instead of focusing so much on what I want to stop doing, I started thinking about what I could do instead that's specifically ADHD friendly and fun, and wasn't gonna break the bank. Those are my 3 goals. And if you're new here, you may not know, but I have started a 6-month challenge where I am trying to change each area of my life by December. I'll keep the links below. I'm currently on month 2. If you want to check it or watch it, I highly encourage you to subscribe. It's a journey, let me tell you, it's a journey, but I'm keeping it so for real. Like, I don't look like this every day. If you go and watch my vlogs, you will see the behind the scenes. It is not aesthetic, it is just reality. So if you want to see that, it'll be linked below. One of my pillars on there is to learn one hobby or one skill each month. And I originally added that pillar because I wanted to challenge myself and try new things. But I realized it actually does something else too. It gives me something to reach for that isn't my phone. So what I did instead was I started learning things with absolutely no pressure to become amazing at them. And that part is important because I think sometimes as adults, we convince ourselves that if we're going to start a hobby, we need to be good at it. But no, that's not reality. You're allowed to be terrible. In fact, it's inevitable at the beginning. And one of the things I decided to learn was hand knitting. I wanted to make one of those big chunky knitted blankets. And so far I've made 2 chunky blankets, one for myself, one for my mum. And I already have 3 requests to make other people in my family blankets as well. So I am booked out. No, I'm not getting paid for it. Don't worry. I just enjoy doing it. And now I get to gift someone I love something I enjoy doing. There's something so satisfying about working with your hands and slowly watching an actual thing be created before your eyes. Because with your phone, you can scroll and scroll and scroll for 2 hours and then look up and you have absolutely nothing to show for your time. But now I can look down and be like, oh, blanket. And it's also a very useful skill to have, because if one day all goes left and we have nothing, I know I can weave something together with my hands and make something to keep us warm. That's obviously worst case scenario, but you get my point. I watch too many movies. The other thing I made was a hand woven bag. I made this pretty pink one for my niece and she's such a girly girl. She absolutely loves it. And as well as a skill, these hobbies have created something that I can gift the people that I love. But don't be intimidated. You don't have to make all of these from scratch. The woven bag that I made, the company I used provides you with all the supplies. So it is a very beginner friendly starting point. Another thing I want to do that I'm still working on is creating my own family recipe book. Yeah, look, I feel like I'm a 50-year-old stuck in a 29-year-old body. Like, I always wish that my mum had a traditional recipe that her mum had passed down to her and she could pass down to me for me to pass down to my kids. But that doesn't exist, I have asked. So I want to create that. I've slowly been trying new recipes, and I mean like desserts and mains. I write down all the ones that are my favorites and all the ones my husband asks for on demand. And I'm going to try and put them into like my own little cookbook and then print it out. And then my dream is to pop it inside my top shelf of my home and then let it grow a bit old and get the page all wrinkly, and I could always bring it back when I'm making my baby some food. And then on my deathbed, I'll give it to my baby and be like, this is from me to you. And don't forget, the secret ingredient to make it taste like Nana's food is... and then I'll just flatline. Oh my gosh, am I sick for that? Oh, I'm childish. Okay, maybe that's petty, but that's like my dream. Because there is no secret ingredient. I just wanted to be like, what is it? Anyways, moving on. I also want to do some more painting, and just know that these things don't have to become business ideas. You don't have to be Picasso. You can literally just do them and have fun. Remember? Fun? Outside of your phone. The biggest difference is that my free time feels a lot more satisfying. Yes, scrolling gives you entertainment immediately, whereas a hobby doesn't always do that. At first, learning might be a little bit confusing, messy, and sometimes even frustrating. Like, sometimes I'm knitting something and I'm learning from a tutorial, doing it at the same time, and it comes out looking 4 times worse than hers does. There's holes in areas there shouldn't be, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can always go wrong. The whole point is that you're doing something, you're learning something, and the more you do it, the more you'll get better at it. And sometimes you just like look at it and be like, I made that, I did that, period. That's me with my first blanket. I was literally looking at it and I'm like, I made that. And if I was to sell it, it would cost $2,000. Knowing damn well it is like the most inconsistent threading that anyone has ever seen. But like, I'm just so proud of my creation because I know I made that from scratch. So the gratification you get is on another level. It's literally a different type of satisfaction. Before you say, okay, Vita, I don't want to knit a full king size blanket like you did. That is so fair. But your hobby can literally be anything. You can try baking bread, learning how to decorate cakes, crochet, embroidery, drawing, watercolors, learning photography, growing herbs, starting your own garden, flower arrangements, learning a new language, learning sign language, trying different hairstyles, sewing, making jewelry, learning to dance, learning chess, making candles, trying a new recipe, or even just learning a fun fact about geckos, which is what I've done. There's a channel called Z Frank and he talked about geckos. That's like my go-to channel to learn fun facts about animals, like weird facts. So you could do that. Do whatever. It does not need to be productive. It doesn't need to make you money. It just needs to be your escape, your version of entertainment outside of social media and being on your phone. And when you're doing this, don't be like me. You do not need to spend hundreds of dollars on these hobbies. When I started learning to do my nails, which is recently, I bought like $800 to $1,000 worth of nail setup. That is completely unnecessary. You don't need to do that. Don't be like me. I'm working on that, okay? Just start cheap, borrow something, use what you already have, watch a beginner tutorial. And one thing I'm trying to do is specifically do these hobbies during the times I know I'm likely to reach for my phone and mindlessly scroll because I need that stimulation. I'll reach for my knitting sticks instead. You can still knit and watch TV. Like, you can have a little bit of both. Too much of one thing is bad, right? Learning to have healthy amounts of both. And the whole point of this is not to throw your phone into the ocean and start making pottery in the mountains. I like my phone. Interestingly enough, I love my phone. It's useful. It keeps us connected to people, which is good. Oh, the Lord is shining on me. He said, yes, Vita, point that point, period. I just don't want it to become so entertaining that my actual life starts feeling boring in comparison. Because maybe your life isn't boring. Maybe you've just stopped giving ordinary life enough time to become interesting. So if you are constantly reaching for your phone, try creating a few little pockets where nothing is happening. You might be pleasantly surprised by what your brain does when you finally give it some space. See you in the next one.